What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of whistlekick Martial Arts Radio. Today is a word association episode. Andrew's going to give me some words, and I'm going to tell you how they relate to martial arts in my brain. Some of you really enjoy these episodes. Others, well, maybe you don't. That's okay. We give you a lot of variety intentionally. If you want to see the variety of all the things that we do at whistlekick.com, by the way, that's Andrew Adams, and I'm Jeremy Lesniak.
Hi.
Go to whistlekick.com. You're going to find all the things that we do because we make stuff, both training programs and physical goods, training equipment, apparel, like our sweatshirts.
Mm-hmm.
We make content, martialjournal.com, this show. What else do we do for content? There's some other things out there. Books. We have books. And we've also got events like All In Weekend, Martial Summit, Free Training Day, as well as services.
Free training days.
Zzz. Right, because there's more than one. Free training days. As well as services for individuals and schools, like consulting services, as well as Whistlekick Alliance. Check out Whistlekick Alliance if you have a school. If you haven't, you're missing out. And you might be thinking, yeah, Jeremy, I'll check it out later. No, seriously, like you are genuinely missing out. All right. Word association. 10 words?
We got 10, I think I got 10 words.
Is there a theme?
There's no theme this time.
No theme.
Last month was
I enjoyed
fun.
the winter theme.
The winter theme was fun. This is very all over the place themed. I guess. So I guess there's a theme. The theme is no theme.
Okay. I'm just checking the audio real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
All right, good.
My eyeballs are not.
Okay. You ready for your first word?
Sure.
This word actually came in from it says Noah Grout, but I'm guessing when I typed it in, it auto-corrected. I'm pretty sure it came in from Nish.
Oh, okay.
Grout. That would make way more sense.
That would make way more sense. Shout out to Nish. What's going on, man?
Unless it really was from Noah Grout.
I don't know a Noah Grout.
Apologize, but
I do know a Nish. And Nish would probably be auto-corrected.
And Nish's last name would be Grout.
It is.
So
he's been on the show.
If we're wrong, and it really is from a listener named Noah Grout, thank you. And the word is diabetes. Thanks, Nish.
I got to be really careful here. Okay. I got a few ways I can go with this. All right. In case I say something, I am not a doctor. Nothing I say about medical or health or the body should ever be considered as factual. If it is, it's a coincidence. Okay. There are two, now sometimes thought of as three, kinds of diabetes, right? You got type 1, you're born with it. Kind of stuck. Type 2 and type 3 are preventable, reversible. People don't like to hear that, but it's true. There's more than enough data to show it. By the way, type 3 diabetes, Alzheimer's. It's what it's referred to in a lot of places.
What is it referred to as?
Type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay, got it.
Now, let's take type 1 out for a moment. What is the cause of type 2 and type 3 diabetes? Doing things that we know we shouldn't do that really don't have a significant impact at any one time, but accumulated over time make a pretty substantial change in the body. Now, we can look at that pattern pull that pattern and the utility of it in a positive or a negative way. I don't think anybody thinks that getting diabetes is a good thing. I don't know anybody that does. I suppose it could be corrected, but the idea of making small changes to create habits that lead to dramatic differences is pretty deeply rooted in martial arts. Mm-hmm. Most martial artists have this arc where they start, everything's new. And for the first few years, everything's new. And then they reach a point where there isn't so much new anymore. But what instructors are asking them to do is just keep showing up. Mm-hmm. Just keep training. Just keep trusting this process. And the ones that do look back and go, wow, That's a substantial amount of change.
Yeah, it's a good point.
In the same way that, maybe having an extra cupcake or too many drinks or whatever frequently over time creates some pretty dramatic changes in the body that you don't notice until it's too late, right? It's gradual until it isn't.
Mm.
And we can say the same thing about a lot of our martial arts training, that you get to a certain point and you're like, I can do that. I know that. I did that. I can't believe that just happened, right?
Mm.
And that is the result, after you've been training a while, of accumulating a lot of time on the floor. I don't know very many people that have had the experience of their training and they're plodding along and and then they learn a new thing and they're instantly good at it, or they make dramatic refinements. That's probably a better way to think of it. Do you know anybody that their form was fine as an advanced rank, and somebody said, here's all these things, and it instantly got better? No, you got to put in the time,
yeah,
right?
It takes time.
I can see that my metaphor is starting to get a little strained, but I'll close it out here. Habits lead to results.
All right. The whole time you're talking, all I can think of is Wilfred Brimley calling it diabetes.
Do you know there are a lot of people who are too young to remember those commercials?
You are absolutely correct. In fact, I was having this discussion with some friends the other day.
Diabetes.
Yep. Get your diabetes testing supplies.
He had an amazing mustache.
He did. Rivaled perhaps only by
Sam Elliott.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I didn't even have to say the name.
Also an amazing mustache.
Yeah. Also, interesting fact, my friend Jason, I don't think you've met Jason.
I haven't.
But we've had, you know who he is.
Yeah.
He used to have diabetes. And he doesn't anymore. Because he got a new pancreas and a new kidney.
Oh, wow.
Which, by the way, fun fact, did you know when you get a new pancreas and a new kidney, they don't take the old ones out? They leave them in. Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, I digress. Pancreas is not your next word.
Thank you.
It would have been a great segue, though. But
would have been.
Forest.
One of my favorite sayings, I don't use it, but I like it. Can't see the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We have a habit as human beings of not being able to take a big step back and look at the entirety of things.
Yep.
There's this tree here in front of me, or there are these 3 trees, but really the 3 trees are part of this massive ecosystem. And this does dovetail a little bit with the prior word. But as martial artists, as we advance, as we have more time on the floor, as we're more willing to acknowledge our deficiencies, you start to see that there is an absolutely massive forest that you will never be able to fully embrace. And I think that acknowledging the scope of that forest, all of the things that you could do, all of the techniques, all the ways you could move, weapons and grappling, and all the ways you could compete and train on your own, and all the classes and styles, right? It's huge. Now, how often does a tree blow down in the middle of the forest? Not very often, because by those trees being with each other, they're stronger. And this is a big part of my view. Maybe I haven't used this metaphor before, but this is how I see martial arts. I don't see any of it as bad. Some of it's not for me, but I'm glad it exists because it's for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it I don't like doing. Some of it I think is potentially harmful to me and even other people, but I'm still glad it exists, because what if I'm wrong? What would martial arts as a global pursuit, I'm not even going to say as an industry or a hobby or a sport, as a global pursuit look like if we took that metaphor to heart? we built a strong root bed where, you know what? Here's my tree, your tree, all these trees, and the roots interconnect. They share information. Yes, plants communicate. If you didn't know that, look it up. But more so, it creates strength. So that when something happens, some natural disaster occurs, there's strength there. I think as martial artists, what we do and who we are and the world we live in would be so dramatically better off if we stopped siloing ourselves and treating it as individual trees. And that's why we refer to things as martial arts and we use style, non-style specific terms. We try to, you know, I train in karate. I practice kata. But when we are talking about martial arts forms, we try to avoid those terms because you might not train karate. You might not do kata.
Yeah, you might not do punse. Mm-hmm. All right, next word. Beard.
Beard, I have one. Next. No. That's a funny one.
I told you, we're all over the place on this one.
Yeah. Did you come up with this word looking at me as you were coming up with your list? Go, he has a beard. I'm going to write down beard.
Maybe subconsciously.
Yeah. All right. Beard is a semi-permanent covering of a face. Oh, you know what? A beard can dramatically change the appearance of a person.
Mm-hmm.
You've never seen me completely clean shaven. You've seen me shave down pretty close, but I haven't been clean shaven in a long time. I see myself very differently based on the length of my beard.
Okay.
There's a certain length where I look and I say, I like how my face looks with that length beard. And then 3 days later, not so much.
Yep.
Okay. But really, does it change who I am? No. Does it change what I can do? No. Does it really keep my face warmer? No.
Nope.
It's not that big bushy of a beard that it's going to have an impact. But there are a lot of things we do in martial arts that don't really change anything, but we have preferences. Maybe they're aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
There are subtle differences, and oftentimes between styles of maybe the way a certain stance is or the way a punch goes. And you might look at one and go, I like that one. You might look at another and say, I don't like that as much. Or in the case of me being clean shaven, you might look at that and go, I don't want to do that again. But really, the utility of that stance doesn't change that much. The utility of that strike doesn't change that much, maybe even at all. You could look at forms. How many different styles of karate, beyond karate, how many different styles of martial arts have an empi?
Or a naifachi, teki. Yeah.
And they're different.
Mm-hmm.
But are they really?
Yeah, you could definitely see one in the other. Yep. Yeah.
You could grow a beard and be like,
I have.
That looks like Andrew.
I have grown a beard.
I could shave mine off. You'd look at me and go, Jeremy, you look different, but I can tell that it's you.
Yep.
Right? A lot of what we do in martial arts, if we get right down to it, is aesthetic preference. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm. Okay, next word. Topographical maps.
I love maps, but specifically topo maps.
You have a lot of maps in your house.
I do.
I probably got the word because I saw maps, but I'm specifically pinpointing a topographical map.
So if we take a standard map, so like you can't see, but over there is a map of the US. There's a map of the world over there. Those maps, they have some value to them. I can look, and that value is, where are these things in relation to other things? That's really the main use of a map like that. But a topo map is a little bit different, because a topographical map can help you understand not only what's next to what, but how you might get from point A to point B as you pick it. For those of you who might not be familiar, topographical map will show you elevations and pitch, right? So on a standard topographical map, there are bands, right? You think about the top of the mountain, and it has these, call them circles. They're not really circles, but these lines, and each step in the line means an elevation change of, so many feet.
Yeah.
So if something is steeper, the bands will be closer together. You probably don't want to go that way if you're hiking. You probably want to go the more gradual way. Assuming, of course, there are trail options. But other kinds of maps don't necessarily tell you how you could go. Road maps do, but oftentimes they make it pretty clear you should take this route.
Yeah.
Topographical maps leave it a bit more up to you. And I think the journey of martial arts is much like that. In the early days, you do this. You do this way. You come to this class, this is what we're doing.
Here's the roadmap.
Here is the roadmap. But as you get further along, you start training with someone who's really high ranked, especially at a seminar or something. They'll say, you might consider, or you might try, not always, but you might want to think about doing this, or training that, or stopping this, or putting more attention on that. And I think those are kind of like the bands on a topographical map.
I dig it. All right, next word. My friend Jason has said in the past, this is an aside, but it has to do with the next word.
Okay.
That if he were a millionaire, he feels, and I agree, if you're going to be a millionaire, you need an eccentricity. It's just one of those things. You got to pick one up. And his would be, and I agree with him because it would probably be mine too, that every single day when he woke up in the morning, he would put on a fresh, brand new, never worn pair of socks, which, by the way, I'm wearing right now.
Brand new?
Brand new. Put them on this morning.
Nice.
And the feeling was amazing. So your word is socks.
Okay. So here we are. We're recording this in Vermont. And Vermont being, what are we, the second smallest population in the U.S.? I think it's that. 630,000. I think North Dakota has fewer. South Dakota. I think one of the Dakotas has fewer, and I think that's it. If I'm wrong, we're pretty close to the bottom. And despite that, we are the home of some absolutely amazing brands. Ben & Jerry's is from here. We're pretty much responsible for the craft beer movement in this country. Vermont Teddy Bear Company. Burton Snowboards. But there's another company that you may or may not be familiar with called Darn Tough. Darn Tough is, last I knew, this might have changed, the only domestic sock maker in the United States.
Oh, interesting.
I did IT work for them back in the day, just a little bit. More so for the owners personally. 2 towns over. And they make amazing socks with lifetime warranties.
They make darn tough socks.
Very darn tough socks. In fact,
wearing them right now.
Can we see? It says darn tough. Now,
they're not a sponsor of this.
They are not a sponsor, but we would take them on. Absolutely. Yeah. So prior to moving here, I wore socks the way most people wore socks. You buy them 6 or 12 in a pack.
But wait. Does anybody wear socks in a different way than putting them on their feet?
Let me finish.
Okay. You said you wear them in the way most people. What people don't wear socks on their feet?
Wearing socks is also selecting socks.
Okay,
you go into your sock drawer and you're like, what socks am I wearing? Okay, right? Prior to moving to Vermont and learning about Darn Tough, which at the time wasn't even Darn Tough. They did not have their own house brand at the time. They were making socks for others. Prior to this, my choice of socks was, what is cheap? Do I want white or black? And so I thought socks were socks. But this company, they haven't for a couple of years because of global change thingies. We try not to use those words so we don't get flagged. had a sock sale where they would sell off seconds and whatnot, which ultimately, as they rolled out their own house brands, turned into just an opportunity for locals to go and get amazing first quality socks at really low prices, because some of their socks are $30 a pair.
Mm-hmm.
Some of their big ski socks and whatever. But I remember the first time I went there, because friends were talking about, are you going to the sock sale? What are you talking about? It's the sock sale. Well, the sock sale, you've seen Black Friday. Imagine Black Friday for socks. That's what this was.
Okay.
And I started wearing these socks, and they lasted forever, and they were more comfortable. And as they rolled out their own brand, life's too short for bad socks. I think that's what it was. And I started to realize that socks were something I was taking for granted. And I did not realize that there was an entirely different level and way of approaching socks beyond what I had understood prior. And I have had a couple of those sort of epiphanies during my time in martial arts training. One of them was when I got involved with the Superfoot organization.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. And I've had a few others that let me realize I thought I understood what this is.
Yeah.
But, and to throw back to before, I was missing the forest for the trees. I was focused in on a tree or two, and I didn't realize this tree was connected to that tree, to that tree. And as I took a step back, I went, I see more now. I get it. If you were to take a look at I have bins in my closet. I don't have dressers. But if you took a look at my sock bins, you would see that almost all of them are darn tough socks. Most of them are 4 to 5 years old, and they will still outlast those socks that you have.
Oh, absolutely, because I buy the cheapies. And they're all white, every single one. I don't have to match them.
Which is nice.
I just reach in my drawer, grab two, and I know they're going to be the same.
And that's kind of a good thing to work in. Not everybody wants to spend the time matching up socks or spending a lot of money for socks. No, I'm not spending $30 on most of these pairs, but they average out to $6 to $10 most of the time. But I might spend less money on something else. You might spend more money on something else. Mm-hmm. It's all in the way we approach it. And that is very true of our individual journeys in martial arts. You and I both train. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of overlap in what we find valuable in our training, but it's not exactly the same.
Correct.
There are things I want to spend time on that you don't. Mm-hmm. And for all of you out there, I'm sure the same is true. That's not bad. It's good. Because martial arts is whatever you want it to be for you.
Tomato soup.
I don't even get like half a second pause for a soliloquy on socks and how poignant that was.
Nope.
Okay. Soup is watered down food.
Okay, I see that. Yeah.
And it is overrated. If it's cold, I'll have some. Oh, no, I have very strong opinions on soup. Chowders I can get behind. Bisques, okay. Stews, sure. Still all watered down food. And the proof is, how do you make soup? You take food and you add water, and then you cook it.
Okay. How does it relate to martial arts?
I don't know yet. I just wanted to rant about that for a minute. I could, which would be very counter to our ethos, point out that there are things that are watered down in martial arts training. But I actually don't know that I believe that. Mm-hmm. I think instead, soup comes in a lot of varieties. You can pretty much make anything into soup. You can make pretty much anything into martial arts. You could develop a system. I know somebody that was a long-standing Filipino martial artist, very skilled, very accomplished, taught at the very first free training day, and developed his own system using a hammer. It's a really cool system. Follows the principles of Filipino martial arts. And yeah. You can do the same thing with a lot of things. Right? You can throw pretty much anything into soup. What doesn't go in soup?
Liver.
But it could.
I know it could. I just don't like it.
Cereal with milk. That's soup. Now, maybe that's not soup by your definition.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's not soup by my definition.
No, because cereal and milk would be a stew.
Is stew a sub-classification of soup?
No, I think they're different.
Is soup a sub-classification of stew? Right? So you can see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I get it.
That, you can make some very significant, create some very significant opportunities for argument over things that ultimately don't matter about where things fall in terms of taxonomy. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
People get wrapped around the axle on that one. So soup, eat whatever liquidy food you want to eat. If it makes you happy, go for it.
Okay. Comic books.
We're living in this interesting time, and we may have crested peak comic book appreciation, but it wasn't that long ago. And I actually credit Big Bang Theory, the sitcom, for this.
Yeah, I can
That
see
a
that.
lot of nerdy pursuits, finally people felt comfortable saying, I like comic books.
Yeah.
I like role-playing games. I like going to Renaissance fairs. When I was a kid, when you were a kid, comic books were for kids. They weren't an art form.
Yeah, they were starting to become, like when I was in high school, it was definitely starting to become an art.
But it was perceived as an art by a subset.
Yeah, it wasn't as mainstream as it became.
And I think that's an important aspect of what I'm going to say here. Comic books today are appreciated. We have a ton of television and movies that are rooted in comic books that people of all sorts will go to and appreciate. And you find out, maybe from some of your friends, that they have characters that they're fans of that you never would have known. You're like, wait, you know the story arc of, Batman from the comic books? You don't just watch the movies? That's kind of neat. Martial arts goes in cycles like that. Now, we can look at the entirety of martial arts, but we could also look at certain martial arts. At various times, karate is more popular than taekwondo. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is probably, I would say, at a similar arc to where comic books are. I think it's a little bit past its peak. That's not disparaging the art in any way. I think the popularity is going to fade a bit, and other martial arts are going to come up. Will that be Filipino martial arts? Maybe. I don't know. I really don't care. As long as people are training, I'm happy. There was a time when Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was very niche. It was underappreciated. When to even know about it and have some understanding of what it was meant you were in a very small population. People knew what comic books were, but they didn't read or collect them. People know what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, but for a while, most people would say, oh, it's kind of like wrestling, right? They might not know the finer points of it and be able to appreciate and understand it.
All right. Just a couple left here.
Okay.
You mentioned it earlier. It was already on my list. Cornflakes, which is a cereal.
Yeah.
Cornflakes specifically.
I can't tell the story, the origin story. Do you know the origin story?
I have heard the origin story, but I don't remember what it was.
All right, let me see if I can find a delicate way to share this. Some of you out there are going to go, yeah, isn't that crazy? Some of the rest of you are going to go, what? Cereal, and if I'm remembering the story correctly, specifically cornflakes, was invented to essentially sedate patients in mental wards, specifically to reduce their sexual proclivities, of which they had little recourse but to engage themselves. Yet, there's your history lesson for the moment. It's nothing. That part has nothing to do with martial arts, and I'm putting that in a box over there. Go research that if you want. Cornflakes taste pretty good, but it's the sugar. I like cornflakes.
I don't like cornflakes.
You don't like cornflakes?
I don't taste any sugar on cornflakes at all.
And that's a pretty great example. That's a pretty good example. Why is cornflakes one of many, many, many kinds of cereal? Much like soup. Right? Because maybe you want to suppress certain appetites through cornflakes. Maybe you want to facilitate certain bodily processes with a lot of fiber. Maybe your mother's trying to support your interest in becoming a paleontologist and buys you what are basically fruity pebbles in the shape of dinosaurs. Made the milk all funny colors too. It was the only sugary cereal I was allowed to have. But at the end of the day, it's a habit. Why do we eat cereal? We all grew up being taught breakfast is the most important meal of the day. If you remember back, every cereal commercial had a similar format. Exciting colors and action and characters that had nothing to do with cereal. A presentation of cereal in a bowl with a bunch of other things that were healthy.
Yep.
Usually juice or some fruit. Maybe some toast, because we all thought bread was really good for us back then.
Maybe the fruit was in the cereal.
Blah, 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 cornflakes is part of a balanced breakfast, right? So we were hammered on, you got to have breakfast. And it should be cereal. Why? Because cereal is cheap and it's easy and kids can do it. Kid can take the box of cereal,
make it themselves,
pour it in the bowl, put the milk in, good to go. Okay. We have aspects of martial arts that are that they're simple. They come in a variety of flavors. And even a kid can do it themselves. How about the first form in most martial arts systems? Often starts with turn to the left, downward block, punch. I think every single martial arts school I've been in that did a form started that way. I think even my Kempo forms started that way.
2 of the 3 schools I trained at is that.
Now, it might not be clearly it's not all of them. And it doesn't matter if it's all of them. But you can look at that and go, okay, why are we starting with that? Okay, well, it's a good way to start. It's a good way to start your training. It's a good way to start this progress. It's a good way to start the day. Whether or not you agree with that, for a long time, a lot of us have believed that. Whether or not you believe breakfast is necessary and even important, there are plenty of people who fast through breakfast now. It's open to debate, but I think you can draw a correlation.
All right. Pruning shears.
You looked out the window.
No.
No, you didn't? You didn't see the
No.
pruners on the porch?
No.
Oh, okay. Pruning shears, in most contexts, you're taking away to encourage growth. It's counterproductive in the short term, but in the long term, it's meant to make things better. If you've been training a while at something and you're not doing it well, and you change it because your instructors told you, you should stop doing this way. Maybe you've got hundreds or thousands or even tens of thousands of repetitions doing it the wrong way.
Mhm.
You're not going to do it the right way better instantly. It's going to take some practice. But long term, maybe even medium term, it's a benefit. So you're pruning away the way that you used to do it to facilitate the growth of the better way. And that's something a lot of people are not willing to do once they train for a while. A lot of people are not willing to hear, yeah, I don't want to do it that way. A lot of people are not willing to hear, there's another way you could do this that you might find beneficial. And they'll go and they'll try it once and it doesn't work. And they go, well, clearly that was useless. But we don't want to just look at what is the plant today? What do we want it to be?
Mm-hmm.
Am I growing a fruit tree that I want to harvest and I don't want all the apples to be up there, so I'm keeping the tree shorter? Or am I growing blackberries as a border on the edge of my property, so I'm cutting blackberry canes off that stick out in the wrong directions? You've got to know what the goal is. We talk about the why all the time. You've got to know what your goal is. What do you want your martial arts plant to be? And there are times you have to prune things. You have to prune certain techniques or certain styles of training or certain drills or certain people. If that goal, that plant, tree, whatever, is going to flourish in the way that you truly want it to.
All right. Last word.
Okay.
GPS. Global Positioning System.
Yes, that is true. It's autopilot. Go here, do this, do that. And it works really well. You know what else can work really well? If you know where you're going. You know what doesn't work really well? When you argue with the GPS. Some of the worst driving circumstances I've had are when I disagreed with the GPS. I trusted in it enough that I plugged it in. I wanted to use it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Why are you taking me this way? This is dumb. I'm not doing that. Oh, shoot. And there are people who do this with their training. They go to a class. They have an instructor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They submit themselves to the recommendations of that teacher for a period of time. And then, without having the full context or the knowledge, the training, or asking questions, I know you can't ask the GPS questions, but they will disagree and they'll do things on their own. Doesn't usually work out well because now you are lost. Now the drill that you've gotten to at the end of class doesn't line up with what you've been working on that day, or the form, or whatever else it is. If you're going to train on your own, train on your own. If you're going to learn a curriculum through a person, through a system, a school, whatever, trust it. If you don't trust it, don't be there. If I don't trust my GPS, I shouldn't use it. Now, yes, there are exceptions. There are examples of people following the GPS into a lake. I get it. There are instructors out there who are terrible, and they will have you do dumb things.
Restomp that groin.
Both of these things, though, are very unlikely. I don't know anyone personally who has driven into a lake or been told to drive into a lake by their GPS.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone who has been pulled into did talk to one person. I've known a few people via the show that have had some poor experiences with martial arts instructors. But it doesn't mean that just because you disagree or you distrust or you're unsure that you go, nope, I'm going to do my own thing. You know what I do sometimes when I'm disagreeing with the GPS? I just turn it off.
Mm. Sure.
I could just quit the school. I could just go find another instructor.
Yeah. I think I know this is supposed to be me asking you the word association, but to add on what you said, I think, as you know, and some listeners, watchers may know, like I used to drive to Albany every Wednesday for about 6 years. And, when I go somewhere new, I use the GPS because it'll tell me where to go. But after I've done it enough, I don't obviously need the GPS. And one day it told me to go this other, like I had it on and I knew how to get there because sometimes I leave it on because as an added benefit, I can share the ETA with my wife. Yep. If I get in an accident, my wife is notified. So yep. I use it even when I don't need it. But this one day it told me to go this other way. And I was like, okay, whatever. Yeah, sure. And because there was an accident that I didn't know about, but the way that it told me to go bypassed a section that I didn't want to, that's a pain every time. So from there on out, I would put the GPS on to go to Albany because I like my wife to know where I am. And it would tell me go straight. And I was like, no, I'm taking this back road because you told me to once and it's amazing. Like it's so much better. But it was only after I'd had enough experience that I was able to make that change for myself. So it's kind of
that's an important point.
Yeah. And my Master Ken joke of the restomp the groin, he has said multiple times that he put that into his thing as a funny thing because he actually heard that from an instructor once. And he thought it was so absurd and hilarious that you just have to restomp the groin that he took that to put into his videos. It's pretty funny.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's my last word. I'm going to finish by letting you know that Wyoming is the only state with fewer population than Vermont. You are correct. Vermont was the second smallest.
Thank you.
But Wyoming is the smallest.
Shout out to Wyoming. And shout out to all of you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching or listening. Remember, our episodes, if you want to see our shiny faces and our collective lack of hair, you can join us on YouTube. We release episodes twice a week. Monday, we drop an interview. Thursday, we drop something else.
I call them topic-driven
Topic-driven episodes, like this one. This topic was word association, and I got to wax philosophical today, and I enjoyed it. Thank you for that. Felt like I was on today. I hope you all enjoyed that. If you have topic suggestions or guest suggestions, this is the guy right here, Andrew at whistlekick.com. You can reach out and tell him what you think. And
like Nish did.
Yeah.
He said Nish diabetes.
Yeah. Send some words. I really enjoy these. This is probably the only show format we do where I don't care if anyone likes it, because I do. I have fun with these. So remember, if you want to support us, whistlekick.com, podcast 15 saves 15% on anything. Come to an event. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out Whistlekick Alliance if you're a school owner. Help spread the word on what we do. We are passionate about what we do, and your help makes a difference, not just in this organization, but in our ability to serve the martial arts community. Until next time, train hard, smile, and have a great day. It was good.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it was
buddy.
good.